Alright, 2024, new iPad. After an entire year, Apple has finally made revisions to their iPad lineup. They threw a new chip and a new size into the Airs, which is great, but the really interesting upgrades this year were purely to the iPad Pros. It seems like more than ever this year that Apple is positioning the iPads as full-on laptop replacements. And I consider myself a bit of a power user. I'm doing heavy video work, moving massive files around, and doing a good amount of photo work. So the question really is for me, can I finally sell my big bulky laptop and stick to carrying this beautiful piece of glass around? Let's give it a go. Now there's a handful of things that I need my mobile workstation to be able to handle for me to want to really make the shift. For one, and it's kind of two things, I want it to be able to handle some photo work, and I would like it to be helpful at school. Two, I need it to be able to help with my admin work, manage social media accounts, look at analytics, get all of the boring stuff done. Content consumption is somewhere in there, but all Apple devices are pretty good for consuming content nowadays, so it's not really a big thing. The third and last big thing I generally expect from my laptop / mobile machine is video editing. Now I know there's been a lot of video editing updates since the last time I gave an iPad a serious go, so I'm going to give those all a try, see how I like them. Now the last time I tried to switch out my MacBook Pro for an iPad Pro, I was using this. This is the 2020 iPad Pro. I think it is. It's the one right before they added the M series chips to the iPad. It's an 11-inch, it's got all the accessories, and I do really love this thing, but it just wasn't enough to swap out my MacBook Pro. And since then, the iPad has gotten far more powerful chips, although the power was never really the issue I had with the iPad in the first place, but faster is better, I guess. I will say, immediately though, the displays have come a long way. Coming from an LCD Retina to the tandem OLED display has been incredible, and I'll have a lot more to say about that a little bit later. iPadOS has also had a little bit of time in the oven since the last time I tried to make the switch to iPad, and so is everything else. The biggest thing though is that I've changed as a creative since the last time I tried to use the iPad, and that's great. We're always changing, we're always bringing in new equipment and releasing different equipment, and all those changes help you kind of expand and do different stuff. And now I've spent about another week using the iPad Pro 2024 as my primary work machine. I purchased the 13-inch model this time around, which actually made a huge difference in terms of looking at this machine as an actual computer. The display is now big enough that I feel like I can really zone in on it and enter kind of my workflow. The 11-inch was just a little bit too small for me to consider it maybe a laptop and focus on getting work done. So the bigger display has done a ton just for focus and everything you could really imagine. In school, the big display has been a big game changer as I finally replaced my textbooks with an iPad. Being able to highlight stuff with the Apple Pencil, go through, circle stuff, search PDFs, super helpful, and the big display just helps me with all of that information. Now I can't remember the exact name that Apple gave it, but the display on the new iPad is a tandem OLED display, which means they basically just stacked two OLEDs on top of each other so you can pump out way more brightness, and it's gorgeous. If you don't know what an OLED is, I made a video a couple years ago about what OLED is. It's like the second video on my channel if you want to go check it out. The short version though is that OLED pixels generate their own light, meaning you have pretty much perfect contrast. And oh boy, does this OLED display perform. I don't think it's a stretch to say this is the best display I've ever used. It is just drop dead gorgeous. I've got an OLED TV from LG. I've got the studio display. I have the mini LED on the MacBook Pro. And the tandem OLED is just absurd. The colors are mind-blowing. The contrast is insane. You just have to go look at a demo at an Apple store at Best Buy somewhere and see it for yourself because the displays are amazing. I'm absurdly excited to see these displays come to the iPhone or a bigger Apple display or even a MacBook. One of the side effects of OLED panels, if you want to call it a side effect, is their extreme thinness, and Apple took this as an opportunity to make the new iPads the thinnest devices that Apple has ever made. The 13-inch iPad Pro comes in at just 5.1 millimeters, and holding that in your hand and experiencing that, it is actually kind of insane. In fact, my first reaction was, maybe we've gone a little too thin here, and I had heard that there were some sort of little micro bends in the chassis that people were experiencing. I was a little bit worried about it. Listen, I'm not going to bend my iPad. Jerry rigs everything. He did a great bend test on the iPad, iPad and gave me an absurd amount of confidence when he said that the new iPad Pros have what was it? He said, this iPad has a suspicious black magic level of structural integrity. And after hearing that, I'm pretty confident. I haven't had any problems with damage or bending, and I'm not worried about it either. So with all that being said, the iPad has a better display than my MacBook, and it is more comfortably portable than my MacBook. And this might be a little crazy to say, but I prefer using Lightroom and Photoshop on the iPad with the Apple Pencil. So with the display being more portable, comfortable, and more beautiful, and able to be used with an Apple Pencil, I can confidently say that I prefer using this iPad Pro for photo work and schoolwork over my MacBook Pro. And that's a pretty big win for the iPad. Also, I'm not really talking about content consumption much because I feel like everybody knows what the experience is of watching movies on laptops and tablets. I prefer consuming YouTube videos and stuff on the iPad. It's easier, smaller, more portable, better display. Another quick thing I want to highlight that I didn't originally plan on talking about, and I don't have much to say about, it's great for gaming. If you like touchscreen gaming, this is super light, thin, and it's got an incredible amount of power. 120 hertz display. Go game, have a blast. So the next thing I need for my iPad Pro is for it to be a good admin work machine as well as pre-production. I do all of my script writing on my laptop currently, and I do all my note taking between my laptop and my phone. The big accessory I obviously need for all of these tasks is a keyboard. Enter the new Magic Keyboard from Apple. The last Magic Keyboard was okay. It was the best that we had ever had for an iPad at the time as far as keyboards go, but it still wasn't on par with Mac laptops. The new keyboard though, I'm pretty sure I went to the Apple store, and while I was waiting for the pickup because they were gonna bring me the iPad I was looking at the demos, and I'm pretty sure my first text to my girlfriend about the new iPads was, this keyboard is dramatically better. Apple basically popped the keyboard and trackpad right out of a MacBook and plopped it onto the iPad. It's got an aluminum plate, which feels amazing. It's got a function row of keys, which is a great touch. And then it has the full aluminum haptic feedback trackpad that feels identical to my MacBook Pro. I wrote this script on that iPad, and I've done a ton of other writing on the iPad as well, and I love it. I'm a huge fan of the Magic Keyboard, which is funny considering I do love making mechanical keyboards as well. And finally having this level of keyboard easily usable in an iPad on the go is honestly game-changing. My only gripe with the Magic Keyboard, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in the last iPad video as well, when you're like sitting on a couch or something with it on your lap, the iPad is obviously floating above the keyboard, so it's really top heavy, making it awkward to do work while sitting in a weird situation. But if you're set up at a table, on a desk, at a coffee shop, wherever, in a normal sitting position, it is identical to a laptop, and that's frankly awesome. Since I'm talking about accessories, I do want to mention the new Apple Pencil Pro a little bit. I use the pencil for Photoshop and Lightroom work, but I'm not much of an artist. With the new features though this time around, I was convinced to buy Procreate and play with it, and my immediate reaction is I think I want to draw more. There is just something incredibly satisfying about scribbling with the Apple Pencil Pro and drawing and such. I don't really know what it is that makes it so satisfying. It might be how vibrant the colors are on the display or the latency on the pencil. I really don't know, but it is incredibly enjoyable. Like I said, not an artist. You can use this pencil for other stuff that I find really convenient, like highlighting PDFs or signing digital documents. All in all, the pencil is great, and it's a decent price for a solid stylus. So last but not least, how is the video editing? It's still kind of great-ish. There hasn't been a massive change since the last time I gave it a go. The bigger display makes editing a little bit easier, and the keyboard features and upgrades make it more comfortable, but it's not something I would want for my primary machine. Unfortunately, I don't really ever see an iPad overcoming laptops as far as video editing goes. It's just too open-ended and vast of a space, I think, for a tablet to tackle comfortably. Fact of the matter is, on the highest end of things, you do need the flexibility of a regular computer's OS to edit. And that's not to say you can't video edit on the iPad. I think especially if you were using iPhones for shooting video, it's a perfect match. A lot of simpler edits as well as even intermediate stuff can be really cool on the iPad, but as soon as you push a more professional workflow, it gets really tedious. The iPad editors are pretty awesome, but I just can't see myself using them for more than simple and on-the-go edits. The iPad was originally intended to be a middle ground between your smartphone and a laptop laptop, and while it's still doing an okay job at holding that identity, I think it's finally starting to approach the laptop end of the spectrum. It's not exactly a one-to-one replacement, but it is a different way of doing a lot of the daily tasks that you do on a laptop. It's the app-based way, and depending on what you actually do, it can be very helpful. The MacBook Pro's massive upgrade in power over the last couple years did a lot to damage the iPad's approaching identity of becoming a compelling laptop replacement, as all of a sudden laptops were doing the work we expected to be doing on desktops exclusively. I even did a video a couple months ago about the desktop slowly becoming redundant. The iPad, though, is still really solid at doing pretty much everything I mentioned, and pretty much everything you would do on an equivalent MacBook Air or low-level MacBook Pro. So the last question then, am I officially replacing my MacBook with this iPad? No, I am not. Not yet. But I am kind of considering replacing my laptop with this iPad. Fact of the matter is, I've really enjoyed using this iPad out and about, especially with a cellular connection. It's the perfect mobile workstation and machine. The only thing I've been frustrated enough for me to not want to use it is the video editing. But when I really think about it, I do pretty much all of my video editing on any normal week at home at my desk. Maybe I should move to the Mac Studio and let the iPad Pro be my mobile machine. I don't know. I need some time to think about it. What do you think? Should I drop my laptop and make the switch to the iPad full time? Have you made the switch, or are you considering it? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I had a blast playing with this iPad, and I hope you enjoyed. I've got a lot of videos coming down the pipeline, so if you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.